I would like to let you know what's going on in my country with globalism getting more and more on steroids. We seems to play a central role, a big part of the world capital is here, and even the political and financial world capsule seems to be planned here, with all the world institutions already sitting here. You guessed right, I'm talking about Switzerland. These days even in mainstream media we are reading about the idea of a world currency. The Single Global Currency Association is proposing Switzerland for a while now as the perfect place for the bank. Regarding a headquarter for the global central bank, the president of SGCA Mr. Bonpas suggests Basel, Zurich, or Geneva. Switzerland has a reputation for sound money, and locating the global central bank in Switzerland just might be the necessary incentive for that country to join the global monetary union as a member. Swiss history is quite special in Europe, because we are the only country that didn't have a monarchy since 1291, when we became the uncontrollable freedom rebels by a covenant under farmers to defend each other against the surrounding kings. In many battles we defended our freedom against the Habsburgs and other royal families. We got though compromised in our independence by the stealth political influence of the Catholic Church, later sending even guards to the Pope. In the 18th century, European royalties preferred the neutral Swiss guards because of their good reputation. With the occupation of Napoleon in the Helvetic Republic, Switzerland became a federation with a capital, and later a central banking system was established. After the occupation we got our flag, the anthem, and our religious freedom back, but not the old confederation. The French left obvious signs of Freemason, mystery religion symbolism, seen to this day, like the goddess Helvetia, which was copied from the worship of Minerva on Capitol Hill, one of Rome's 7 hills. Now we are again under attack, this time by the internationalist IMF and the OECD, to harmonize tax practices with the EU and the US, after we lost the economic freedoms of a gold standard as the last country on earth fulfilling IMF member rules. Our democratic freedoms and the reputation of our currency is probably why we are still seen as a safe haven for capital, and considered an obstacle for a new world currency order that is probably tried to be overcome by offering Switzerland a global central bank. After reading the article End of National Currency by Ben Steil from the Watchtower of the Council on Foreign Relations, one could think that they seem to see their new currency a bit like the good old sound money that brings back the confidence after the phoenix has landed on the ashes of the casino money system led by the Federal Reserve. Knowing the role of the Rockefellers in the establishment of both the Fed and the CFR, one should see through these hypocritical approaches. The old chairman of the Federal Casino Reserves, Alan Greenspan, has also mysteriously changed from Solace to Paulus in his opinion on gold standard versus casino capitalism, just after leaving the Fed. It seems that, now that they have accumulated enough gold in their hands, which they will use as a covering for their plain digital world currency in the manner of Bretton Woods, as quasi-gold standard. Basel is the headquarter of the Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of the central banks, frequently hosting meetings for the central banking elite, even though they have no Nazi ties. Emil Pohl was one of BIS's president during the war, while also vice president of Hitler's Reichsbank. The president of the Reichsbank, Walter Funk, is known to have supplied Hitler with money from Fritz Thyssen, who himself has ties with Senator and Bonesman Prescott Bush. Geneva, in neutral Switzerland, became something of world capital by hosting the League of Nations. The League was formed with President Wilson's help with the Treaty of Versailles. Many believe that those peace talks of World War I were in fact a stepping stone for the World War II, because Germany was held in a slave mode with war reparations, defined at the treaty. So it happened that after World War II the League of Nations rose to the United Nations, including even the stubborn United States. Today, we find in Geneva that the Red Cross, WHO, WTO and many NGOs, as well as the United Nations building just a small park away from the property of the Rothschild family, which is known for having financed both sides of wars time and time again. Jogging in Geneva I discovered once a diplomatic complex of the Knights of Malta, Iraq, and Germany, guarded by the Swiss army. Even the religious direction of this brave new world is obvious. Lucis Trust, formerly known as Lucifer Publishing Company, is situated right in front of the UN main building. The NGO is a member of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. The WHO in Geneva can be considered headquarter of the worldwide scientific dictatorship. With the fear-mongering on the back of a global pandemic, the WHO shows its real face. To raise the alert level to 6, even no more have died of influenza than in other years, shows clearly that the fear-mongering is not at all based on any scientific grounds and is used to prepare the long-known agenda. I consider AIDS as a test run for the global pandemic for scientists to get used to unscientific propaganda. Many prominent scientists like Nobel Prize winner for PCR Kary Mullis and oncogene discoverer Peter Duesberg are still rejecting HIV as cause for AIDS with very good reasons. For example, demographics of AIDS cases are very different in first and third world countries. Confusing as well are the different test standards in different continents, which allow the steering of the positive test results and therefore are open for eugenic use. In Africa, a test is considered positive when 2 HIV antibody proteins show up. In Australia, the Western blot test needs to show at least 4 HIV antibody proteins before it can be rated positive. If we look at the use of AZT in the first years of AIDS, it is logical that nobody survived long with this highly dosed therapy. On a laboratory package of AZT, we can clearly see that everybody would die sooner or later by ingesting this drug. What changed with the second generation of AIDS drugs, who promise a better and longer life? They just cut the AZT dose to a survivable rate and mixed in some other substances. Studying chemotherapy, I landed on a story about its beginnings in Hitler's Igfarben concentration camps. It seems as the modern form of the pharmaceutical company has basically started with Igfarben. Their headquarters in Frankfurt was in 1837 the property of the Rothschild family. In 1864, the city's psychiatric hospital known as Offenfelsen or Offenstein was erected on the site. IG Farben was the first pharmaceutical company which tested chemotherapy on inmates in concentration camps. The Auschwitz concentration camp was only built to supply enough workforce and guinea pigs for the IG Farben complex in Auschwitz. At the Nuremberg trials, the responsible directors of IG Farben, Hermann Schmitz, Karl Krach and Heinrich Butefisch, got only small sentences and were freed after 2 to 3 years of prison. Like scientist of Operation Paperclip, IG Farben directors were integrated into high positions of power in the pharmaceutical industry in post-war Germany. Even the one president of the commission of the EEC, Walter Hallstein, was a Nazi who formally promoted the racial hygiene doctrine. Is it possible that there are no killer viruses and all depends on the terrain which meets the virus, like Antoine Béchamp, adversary of Louis Pasteur, said? Sources claim that Pasteur made deathbed confessions, saying Béchamp was right. If Béchamp was right, we have to see projects of the scientific dictatorship like vaccination, food additives and climate engineering side effects as a bigger threat to our health than a killer virus. I think it's not fair to say there is no silver bullet when the silver bullet was tested with great success on basically all sicknesses originating in the blood, killing every single-celled organism. Silver ions were used by Dr. Krede, known for the Krede prophylaxis, to treat sepsis before WWII. After the Colloid Chemical Institute in Dresden, Germany was bombed by Allied forces and antibiotics were pushed by pharmaceutical companies, silver just disappeared into the consciousness of mankind until information could no longer be suppressed with the increase of information technology. Silver oxide was recently successfully tested on cancer and terminal AIDS patients without side effects for pennies only, instead of hundreds of thousands of dollars for the highly toxic chemotherapies. Even pharma could now produce their own safe plant protection agents with an ionizer that is as well used for swimming pool disinfection. On the May 17, 2009, the Swiss population voted with 67% for an equality of alternative medicine, but nothing can change the mind of Pascal Couchepin, who kicked alternative medicine out of basic insurance just days after meeting the CEO of Novartis in Rodach, Germany at the 2005 Bilderberger meeting. He will try everything to keep the scientific dictatorship in place for his masters. His embarrassing action will wake up many for the real world. If we understand the scientific dictatorship, we are no longer a victim. On the same day we voted with 50.14% for the introduction of biometric RFID passports with central data storage. God help us.